The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched far above Ambassador Chen Wei's head. The ceiling looked like the night sky, full of stars from 1,000 worlds. She stood at the speaking platform for the 847th time. Her hands held the same report she had carried for months. Behind her, Captain Maria Rodriguez sat in the visitors' gallery. Maria's jaw was tight. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Chen looked across at the semicircle of alien delegates. The Korthax ambassador Thaxcor lounged in his seat. His scaled body reflected the blue light from above. His mouth curved into what humans had learned was a smile. Not a kind one. Honored Council, Chen began. Her voice was steady. I come again to report attacks on human colonies. In the past month alone, the Korthax Empire has raided 7 of our settlements. They have taken supplies, destroyed homes, and killed civilians. I ask again for the Council to intervene. The chamber was silent. Then someone laughed. It was Thaxcor. Ambassador Chen, he said, his voice rough like grinding rocks. Your species has such interesting ideas. You speak of law, of justice, of rules. He leaned forward. But in space there is only strength. Your colonies are weak. They sit on valuable trade routes. If you cannot defend them, others will take them. This is the way of the galaxy. Chen's fingers tightened on her datapad. The Council Charter guarantees protection for all member worlds. We joined this body because we believed in those words. We believed in a galaxy governed by law, not force. The Council Speaker, a floating being of pure energy named Zix, pulsed with a dim light. The Council recognizes Ambassador Chen's concerns. However, the matter of border disputes between member species falls outside direct Council jurisdiction. We can offer mediation services. Mediation? Chen's voice rose slightly. We have tried mediation 46 times. The Korthax refuse every session. Meanwhile, our people die. Then perhaps, Thaxcor said, standing to his full height of 8 feet, your people should learn to fight, or learn to run, because my empire grows, and your colonies are in the way. Around the chamber, other delegates whispered among themselves. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked bored. They had seen this same scene play out before. Humanity always complained. The Council always did nothing. And nothing ever changed. Chen pressed a button on her datapad. Images appeared on the screens around the chamber. Destroyed buildings, burned fields, bodies covered with sheets. These are your victims. These are the people you ignore when you say this is just a border dispute. Show us these images again, said the Vrex ambassador, a bird-like creature with blue feathers, and we will say again what we always say. Space is dangerous. If humanity cannot protect itself, perhaps humanity is too weak for the stars. Maria stood up in the gallery. A security officer moved toward her, but she raised her hands. I am simply going to get some air, she said quietly. She could not watch this anymore. Outside in the corridor, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. She had joined Earth's fleet 20 years ago. She had trained on the best ships. She had studied tactics and strategy. She knew what human warships could do. But every time the Korthax attacked, command sent orders. Do not escalate. Use minimum force. Protect civilians but avoid military confrontation. The humans had followed those orders perfectly. When Korthax raiders came, human ships would evacuate civilians and retreat. They would file reports. They would ask the Council for help. And nothing would happen. Maria had asked her commanders why they did not fight back. We are stronger than the Korthax, she had said. Our weapons are better. Our tactics are better. Why do we run? Her commander had looked tired. Because we remember Earth, he had said. We remember the wars that almost destroyed our world. We swore we would never be the ones to start a conflict. We will only fight if there is no other choice. When will there be no other choice? Maria had asked. The commander had no answer. Inside the chamber, Chen was finishing her speech. I will ask one more time. Will the Council act? Will you honor your charter and protect innocent beings? The speaker pulsed with light. The Council will take the matter under advisement. A committee will be formed to study the situation. We will issue a report in 6 standard months. 6 months. By then, the Korthax would have taken more colonies. More humans would be dead. Chen's shoulders sagged. She had known what the answer would be. She always knew. But she had to keep trying. That was the human way. Talk first, negotiate, find peaceful solutions. Thaxcor laughed again. Do you see? He called out to the other ambassadors. This is why humans will never be a great power. They are too soft, too civilized. They write reports while others take action. He looked directly at Chen. Tell your leaders to abandon those colonies. Give them to us peacefully. We will make better use of them. Chen gathered her papers. We will not abandon our people, and we will not stop seeking justice through proper channels. Then you will watch them die, Thaxcor said. He was still smiling. Chen walked out of the chamber. Maria met her in the hallway. The captain handed the ambassador a cup of tea. Real tea from Earth, a small luxury they both appreciated. Same as always? Maria asked. Same as always, Chen confirmed. She took a sip. The warmth helped, but not much. They walked together down the long corridor. Through the windows, they could see the planet below. The council met on Nexus Prime, a neutral world at the center of known space. It was beautiful, peaceful, far from any conflict. How do you keep doing this? Maria asked. How do you keep believing it will work? Chen was quiet for a moment. Because the alternative is war, real war. And my grandmother told me stories about Earth's last global war. The nuclear fires. The billions who died. She made me promise to always choose peace first, to exhaust every option before resorting to violence. We have exhausted every option, Maria said softly. Not yet, Chen replied. As long as the council exists, as long as there is any chance for justice through law, we must try. Maria wanted to argue, but before she could speak, both their communication devices beeped at the same time. Emergency priority. They looked at each other and activated the messages. The color drained from Chen's face as she read. Maria's expression went cold and hard. New Eden colony, Chen whispered. They hit New Eden. New Eden was not some small outpost on a distant rock. It was a full colony. 50,000 people, schools, hospitals, parks where children played. Humans had lived there for 30 years. They had built a real community. Maria's device showed tactical data. Her military training processed the information automatically. Full assault, not a raid. They brought battleships. Orbital bombardment. Ground forces, she looked up. This was not about taking the colony. This was about destroying it. More data came through. Casualty estimates. Damage reports. Chen's hand started to shake as she read the names of buildings that had been hit. The Central Hospital. Jefferson Elementary School. The Children's Center, 4,000 dead. Early estimates. The number would go higher. Chen turned and ran back toward the council chamber. The session had ended, but delegates were still leaving. She pushed through the crowd. She saw Thaxcor ahead walking with his aides. They were laughing about something. Thaxcor, she shouted. He turned, surprised. Ambassadors did not shout in council halls. Chen held up her device. New Eden. You attacked New Eden. You killed 4,000 civilians. You bombed a children's hospital. Thaxcor looked at the device. He scrolled through the images. His expression did not change. Ah yes, New Eden, a valuable planet. Rich soil, deep water. Perfect for a Cortex colony. He looked at Chen. You should thank us. We are solving your problem. No more human colony to defend. No more need for your endless speeches. You murdered children, Chen said. Her voice was shaking now. You deliberately targeted hospitals and schools. We eliminated future threats, Thaxcor said. He handed the device back. Your species will grow in numbers if allowed. We simply prevented that growth. In war, this is called strategy. Other ambassadors had stopped to listen. Some looked shocked. Others looked away. No one said anything. Maria appeared beside Chen. The captain's hand rested on her sidearm, not threatening. Just present, a reminder that she was there. This is not over, Chen said to Thaxcor. It has barely begun, he replied. 10 more colonies. That is our plan. We will take them all, and you will file 10 more reports. And the council will form 10 more committees. And nothing will stop us. He walked away, still laughing. Chen and Maria stood in the hallway. Around them, the other delegates whispered and hurried past. No one wanted to be involved. No one wanted to take a stand. I am done, Chen said quietly. What? Maria looked at her. I am done with this, with all of it. Chen looked at her hands. They were still shaking. I have spent 5 years here. 5 years believing that words and laws could protect our people. But they cannot. Not if no one will enforce those laws. Not if everyone is too afraid or too uncaring to act. She looked up at Maria. I am going to resign. And I am going to tell Earth exactly why. This institution is worthless. It enables monsters like Thaxcor. It allows genocide to happen while committees write reports. Maria nodded slowly. And then what? Then we stop talking, Chen said. And we start doing what should have been done from the beginning. We protect our people, by any means necessary. They walked together to Chen's office. She drafted her resignation letter immediately. It was short, blunt. She did not hide her anger or her disgust. She sent it to Earth Command and to the Council Speaker, and to every major news network in human space. Within hours, it was everywhere. The patient ambassador who had tried 847 times to make the Council act was done trying. Humanity's faith in galactic law had died with 4,000 civilians on New Eden. On Earth, in the deep underground bunkers where Fleet Command had its headquarters, old men and women read Chen's letter. They read the reports from New Eden. They looked at lists of human colonies and projected Korthak's targets. Then they opened sealed files, plans that had existed since humanity's first contact with alien species, plans they had hoped would never be needed, plans for what to do if peace failed. The President of United Earth stood before a joint session of the World Assembly. The chamber was silent as she spoke. For 47 years we have been members of the Galactic Council. We joined because we believed in peace, in law, in the idea that different species could coexist without war. We have shown patience. We have shown restraint. We have absorbed losses that would have driven other species to immediate retaliation. She paused. That era is over. The Korthak's empire has crossed every line. They have committed acts that we cannot and will not forgive. The Galactic Council has proven itself unable or unwilling to act. Another pause. Longer this time. Therefore, I am authorizing our military forces to take any action necessary to protect human colonies and citizens. No more rules of engagement designed to avoid offense. No more limiting our response to match the enemy's level of force. No more restraint. The chamber erupted. Some delegates cheered. Others shouted objections. The President raised her hand for silence. I do not make this decision lightly. None of us do. But we have tried the path of peace. We have exhausted every diplomatic option. Now we will try something else. Now the Korthaks will learn what human war really means. In orbit around Earth, Fleet Admiral Maria Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EFS Defiance. Around her, the First Fleet was assembling. 73 warships, the finest vessels humanity had ever built. And unlike previous deployments, they were not going to defend. They were not going to evacuate and retreat. They were going to attack. Maria looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Korthaks thought they had won. They thought humanity was weak. They thought human patience was cowardice. Helm, Maria said quietly. Set course for Korthak space. Best speed, Admiral, her first officer said. What are our rules of engagement? Maria remembered the Children's Hospital on New Eden. She remembered Thaxcor's smile. She remembered 8 on 47 useless attempts at peace. There are no rules, she said. Not anymore. They wanted war. They will get it. And when we are finished, every species in the galaxy will know one thing. Humanity does not start fights. But we finish them. The First Fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. Behind them, the rest of humanity prepared for what was coming. Factories that had made peaceful goods switched to weapons production. Soldiers trained for battles they had hoped would never come. Scientists activated research projects that had been kept secret for decades. And on Nexus Prime, at the Galactic Council building, the other ambassadors began to realize that something had changed. The patient humans were done being patient. The peaceful species had decided that peace was no longer possible, and none of them understood yet what that really meant. The ruins of New Eden still smoked. Teams in protective suits moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors and recovering bodies. There were not many survivors. The Korthaks had been thorough. Commander Sarah Park led one of the recovery teams. She had been off-world when the attack happened. Now she walked through streets she had known since childhood. The bakery where she bought bread every morning was gone. The apartment building where her sister lived was a crater. The school where she had learned to read was rubble. Her team worked in silence. What could anyone say? They found a stuffed toy in the wreckage, a child's backpack, a photo of a family, small things that had meant everything to someone. Commander, one of her team called out, "You need to see this." Sarah walked to where her team member stood. He pointed to scorch marks on the ground. Not random. Deliberate patterns. Sarah had military training. She recognized what she was seeing. They targeted the shelters, she said quietly. The emergency bunkers where civilians were supposed to be safe. Her team member nodded. We found evidence at 3 other sites. They scanned for underground structures and hit them with penetrator weapons. This was not about destroying military targets. They were hunting civilians. Sarah took photos, documented everything. This was not just an attack. It was planned genocide. The Korthax had come to New Eden to kill as many humans as possible. 2 days later, Sarah stood before a council investigation team. She presented her evidence on screens for everyone to see. The targeting patterns, the types of weapons used, the timeline showing that civilians had time to reach shelters before the Korthax deliberately destroyed those shelters. This was a war crime, Sarah said. Under every definition in the council charter, this was intentional genocide of civilians. The investigation team reviewed the evidence. They asked questions. They took notes. Then they thanked Sarah for her time and told her they would prepare a report. Sarah stared at them. A report? That is your response to genocide? A report? The team leader of Rex named Kixar looked uncomfortable. We must follow proper procedures. The report will be submitted to the full council. They will vote on whether to take action. How long will that take? 3 to 6 months for the investigation to be completed. Then another month for the council to review it. Then time for debate and voting. And in the meantime, what happens to the next colony the Korthax attack? Kixar had no answer. Back on Earth in the deep military bunkers, a very different kind of meeting was taking place. Admiral Rodriguez sat at a table with the President, the Secretary of Defense, and the commanders of every branch of human military forces. Holographic displays showed the current situation. Korthax fleet movements, human colony positions, intelligence estimates of Korthax plans. They are preparing to hit 3 more colonies simultaneously, the intelligence chief reported. New Shanghai, Hope Station, and Darwin's World. They want to prove they can strike multiple targets at once. To make us spread our forces thin. What are our current assets in those sectors? The President asked. Admiral Rodriguez pulled up fleet positions. We have defensive forces at each location. Following previous rules of engagement, they can evacuate civilians but are not authorized to engage Korthax military forces unless directly fired upon. Previous rules of engagement, the President repeated. What could we do with new rules? Rodriguez looked at her command staff, then back at the President. We could stop them completely, but it would require using weapons and tactics we have kept hidden. Hidden from who? From everyone, including our allies on the Council. Rodriguez stood and activated a new set of displays. Madam President, since first contact with alien species, our military has operated under a doctrine of minimal force. We deliberately used older weapons technology in any conflict. We kept our best ships in reserve. We never showed our full capabilities. Why? Because our analysts believed that if other species knew how powerful we really were, they would see us as a threat. We hoped that by appearing less advanced, we could avoid an arms race. We could be part of the galactic community without scaring anyone. The Secretary of Defense leaned forward. But we can defend our colonies? Yes, but once we deploy our real capabilities, we cannot hide them anymore. Every species will know that we have been holding back. The room was silent for a moment. The President looked at the displays showing human colonies. Thousands of families living on those worlds. Children playing in parks. People building lives. Show me what we can do, she said. Rodriguez nodded to her staff. New displays appeared. Ships that looked different from the standard human vessels seen at council gathering. Weapons that did not match any known human technology. These are our actual military capabilities, Rodriguez said. We have stealth technology that makes our ships invisible to most sensors. We have directed energy weapons that are generations ahead of anything the Korthax use. We have AI-assisted targeting systems that can track and engage thousands of targets simultaneously. She pulled up more images. We have quantum communication systems that cannot be jammed or intercepted. We have hyperspace drives that are twice as fast as the standard models we showed the Council. And we have kinetic weapons that can crack a planet from orbit. The President stared at the displays. How long have we had this technology? Some of it for 30 years. Some of it we developed in the last decade. We kept it secret because we hoped we would never need it. And now we need it. The Korthax have made it clear that they will not stop. The Council will not act. If we continue with our current limitations, we will lose every colony in Korthax space. Tens of thousands of our people will die. The President was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at each person at the table. Recommendations? The Secretary of Defense spoke first. We authorize Admiral Rodriguez to use any and all available assets to defend our colonies. No restrictions. No rules of engagement designed to spare the enemy's feelings. We protect our people. Others nodded in agreement. The President turned to Rodriguez. Admiral, you have full authorization. Defend our colonies. Stop the Korthax. Use whatever force is necessary. Rodriguez stood at attention. Yes, Madam President. What about the Council? They will demand explanations. Let them demand. I will handle the political consequences. You focus on keeping our people alive. The meeting ended. Rodriguez returned to her flagship. Within hours, coded messages went out to every human fleet commander. New orders. New weapons releases. The restraints were coming off. Former Ambassador Chen Wei had returned to Earth after resigning. She expected to fade into a quiet retirement. Instead, the President offered her a new position, Special Envoy for Terms of Surrender. I do not understand, Chen said when they met. Surrender? We are preparing to fight. No, the President corrected. We are preparing to win. And when we win, the Korthax and anyone who allied with them will need someone to negotiate surrender terms with. Someone who understands diplomacy, someone who knows the Council and how it works. You are very confident we will win. I have seen what our military has been hiding for decades. Yes, I am confident Chen accepted the position. But she had one question. Why did we hide our strength? If we had shown the Korthax our real power from the beginning, maybe they would not have attacked. The President shook her head. Maybe. Or maybe they would have united other species against us. Maybe we would have faced a coalition war before we were ready. We made the choice to appear weak because we thought it would buy us peace. And instead, it invited aggression. Yes. We learned something important. Sometimes strength prevents war better than weakness. We tried the peaceful path. Now we try something else. 3 days after New Eden, the Korthax fleet assembled to attack New Shanghai. Thaxcor himself commanded the operation from his flagship. He was in a good mood. The Council had voted to form a committee to investigate New Eden. A committee. As if a committee could change anything. His tactical officer reported readiness. All ships in position, Warlord. New Shanghai has defensive stations, but they are minimal. We will overwhelm them in the first wave. Thaxcor nodded. Begin the attack. And remember, target the civilian centers first. We want to break their spirit. The Korthax fleet moved forward. Ahead, New Shanghai's orbital stations powered up weapons. Thaxcor laughed. Those stations had never heard a Korthax ship before. The humans would fire a few shots, then run away. They always did. But this time was different. The human defensive stations opened fire. But the weapons were not the weak energy beams the Korthax expected. These were different, brighter, stronger. The first volley hit 3 Korthax battleships and cut through their shields like paper. What was that? Thaxcor shouted. Unknown weapons type, Warlord. Our shields were ineffective. Before they could analyze further, something else happened. The Korthax sensors lost track of the human ships. One moment they were there. The next moment gone. Where did they go? Thaxcor demanded. We do not know, Warlord. They disappeared from all sensors. Then the human ships reappeared. Right in the middle of the Korthax formation. At point-blank range. They opened fire with weapons that tore through Korthax armor. Ships exploded. Others lost power. In 3 minutes, the Korthax lost 12 vessels. Thaxcor ordered a retreat. But the human ships were faster. They moved like nothing the Korthax had ever seen. They surrounded the fleeing Korthax fleet. More ships died. Thaxcor's own flagship took a hit. The bridge lights flickered. His tactical officer reported massive damage. Warlord, we must surrender or we will be destroyed. Never. Thaxcor roared. But then another hit struck. And another. Systems failed across the ship. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Life support failing. A communication came through. A human voice. Admiral Rodriguez. This is Admiral Rodriguez of United Earth Fleet. Your ship is disabled. Your fleet is destroyed. Stand down or we will finish what you started. Thaxcor stared at the screen. Around his flagship, the wreckage of his fleet drifted in space. 50 ships had attacked New Shanghai. 38 were destroyed. The rest, including his own, were disabled. How? He whispered. How did you do this? We decided to stop pretending, Rodriguez said. You wanted to see what humans do when pushed too far. Now you know. Thaxcor's ship was pulled by tractor beams to a human station. He and his crew were taken prisoner. For the first time in his life, the warlord felt fear. News of the battle spread fast, very fast. The Korthax had been obliterated by a human fleet half their size. The humans had weapons no one knew existed. The weak, patient species had been hiding strength all along. On Nexus Prime, the Council met in emergency session. Ambassadors demanded explanations. The human representative, a military officer named Commander Stone who had replaced Chen, stood before them. You lied to us, the Vrex ambassador accused. You pretended to be weak while hiding superior weapons. This is a violation of the Council agreements on military disclosure. Stone looked at him calmly. We followed the disclosure rules exactly. We reported our standard military assets. We never lied. We simply did not tell you everything. Why? What is your plan? Are you going to conquer the galaxy now? No, Stone said. We are going to protect our colonies. That is all. The Korthax Empire attacked us repeatedly. They committed genocide. They ignored all attempts at peaceful resolution. We asked the Council 847 times for help. You did nothing, so we helped ourselves. The Vrex ambassador started to respond, but the speaker interrupted. What are humanity's intentions toward the Korthax Empire? That depends, Stone said. If they surrender and agree to pay reparations for their crimes, we will accept. If they continue fighting, we will dismantle their entire military capability, ship by ship, base by base, until they no longer pose a threat to anyone. The Council cannot allow one species to dictate terms to another. Then the Council should have acted when we asked for help. Stone replied, You had 847 chances to prevent this. You chose not to act. So we will act, with or without Council approval. The session ended in chaos. Some ambassadors were angry. Some were afraid. All of them realized that the balance of power in the galaxy had suddenly shifted, but not everyone believed the humans were as strong as they claimed. 5 species with long-standing alliances with the Korthax began meeting in secret. They saw an opportunity. If they united against humanity, they could crush this upstart species and claim human colonies for themselves. They began assembling a coalition fleet. The largest military force gathered in the galaxy in over a century. They would teach the humans the price of disrupting the established order. They had no idea what they were about to face. The 5 species met in a secret location on the edge of known space. The Krell, insect-like beings with hard shells and many legs. The Dravix, reptilian warriors with a proud military tradition. The Zorath, aquatic creatures in mobile water tanks. The Peltok, plant-based beings who moved slowly but thought quickly. And the Ven, energy beings similar to the Council speaker. Each species brought a fleet. Together they numbered over 800 warships, 20 times the size of the human force that had destroyed the Korthax at New Shanghai. General Krask of the Dravix commanded the coalition. He stood before holographic displays showing intelligence about human military capabilities. What they had learned worried him, but not enough to change his mind. The humans have some advanced technology, Krask admitted to the other commanders. Stealth systems. Better weapons than we expected. But they are one species.
We are 5.
They have perhaps 200 warships total spread across their territory. We have 800 here. The mathematics are simple. What about their stealth technology? Asked Commander Velosh of the Krell. If we cannot see their ships, how do we fight them? We use area saturation weapons. We do not need to see them. We fill the space with so much firepower that they cannot hide. Additionally, our scientists have been analyzing the battle recordings. We believe their stealth works by bending sensor waves, but it has limits. Enough sensors close enough together will detect disruptions. The Zorath representative, speaking through a translator, bubbled a question. What is our objective? Are we conquering human space? No, Krask said. We are teaching them a lesson. They disrupted the galactic order by suddenly revealing hidden power. This makes all of us look weak by comparison. We will destroy enough of their fleet that they become humble again. Then we will impose new treaty terms. They will share their technology with us as reparations, and they will learn their place. The plan seemed solid. 800 ships would jump simultaneously to 3 different human systems. They would destroy military assets and force the humans to split their forces. Then the coalition would concentrate on Earth itself, not to destroy it but to threaten it, to make the humans realize they could not win. What General Krask did not know was that humanity had been monitoring their secret meetings. Human intelligence services had infiltrated every major alien government decades ago, not with spies on the ground but with something better. Autonomous AI observers that could hide in any computer system and report back without being detected. Admiral Rodriguez knew about the coalition fleet before the coalition. Commanders finished their final planning session. She knew their numbers, their positions, and their strategy. She called a meeting with her senior staff. "They are bringing 800 ships against us," Rodriguez said. "They think numbers will win. They do not understand what they are facing." Her tactical officer, Commander James Park, pulled up strategic displays. "We have 217 active warships. Even with our technological advantage, we are outnumbered nearly 4-1. Recommendations?" Rodriguez smiled. It was not a happy smile. "We show them what humanity has really been preparing for all these years. Activate Midnight Protocol." The room went silent. Everyone there knew what Midnight Protocol meant. It had been the most classified project in human space for 30 years. Only the highest military commanders even knew it existed. "Admiral," Park said carefully, "Midnight Protocol was designed for an existential threat. For a war of survival against the entire galaxy if necessary. Are we sure this situation justifies it?" "They are bringing 800 warships to attack our space," Rodriguez replied. "They intend to threaten Earth itself. If that is not existential, what is? Besides, maybe it is time the galaxy learned the truth. We have been preparing for war since the day we met our first alien species. We hoped we would never need these preparations. But we made them anyway." Orders went out across human space. Coded signals reached hidden installations. Systems that had been dormant for decades activated. And across 100 different star systems, things that had been waiting in the dark began to wake up. The coalition fleet assembled at their staging point. 800 ships organized into battle groups. They were confident. They had numbers and they had experience. They would jump into human space and show these newcomers how real powers fought. General Krask gave the order. The fleet jumped. They emerged in the frontier system, one of humanity's outer colonies. Sensors immediately began scanning for the human defensive fleet. They found it quickly. 20 human warships in standard defensive formation around the colony world. "Only 20 ships?" Krask was surprised. "Where is the rest of their fleet?" "Unknown, General. Perhaps spread across other systems. Then we will destroy these 20 quickly and move on." Krask ordered the attack. The coalition fleet moved forward. 300 ships against 20. It should have been a massacre. Then the space around them came alive. Objects that had been drifting looking like asteroids or space debris suddenly powered up. Weapon systems activated. Hundreds of automated defense platforms hidden in the system for years opened fire simultaneously. The coalition ships found themselves in a crossfire. Missiles came from every direction. Energy beams cut through their formations. Mines floating dormant in space activated and crashed into ships at high speed. "Evasive action," Krask shouted. But there was nowhere to evade to. The entire system was a trap. The 20 human ships attacked at the same moment. But they were not alone. 50 more ships decloaked, appearing from nowhere. Then 100 more. They had been hiding, waiting. The coalition realized too late that the humans had turned the entire frontier system into a weapon. Every piece of space junk was a potential threat. Every asteroid might be a hidden missile platform. And the human ships moved through this deadly field perfectly, obviously knowing where every trap was because they had placed them. Krask ordered a retreat after losing 60 ships in the first 10 minutes. "The coalition fleet jumped out, regrouping at a safe distance. What just happened?" Velosh demanded. "Those weapons, those platforms, they were not there on any of our scans." "They have been there for years," Park answered, analyzing the battle data. "The humans have been seeding their space with automated defenses since they joined the Council. Every year they add more. We were not fighting 20 ships. We were fighting an entire star system that has been turned into a fortress." At the second target system, a similar story unfolded. The coalition arrived expecting an easy fight. Instead, they found themselves facing not just ships but entire networks of automated defenses. Weapons hidden in orbit around planets, mines scattered through asteroid fields, sensor nets that detected them the moment they arrived and coordinated devastating counterattacks. The third battle group fared the worst. They jumped into a system that appeared empty. No human ships, no defenses, nothing. They scanned for hours, finding no targets. Then they decided to approach the colony world itself. That was when the trap closed. The empty space around them was filled with human ships using stealth technology. But not just a few ships. Hundreds of them. An entire ghost fleet that had been invisible, waiting. The humans opened fire at point-blank range. The coalition ships never had a chance. In 20 minutes, the entire battle group was destroyed. Not a single coalition ship escaped. General Krask received the reports and stared in disbelief. 800 ships, the largest military force assembled in decades, and in 3 battles they had lost over 300 vessels. The humans had lost less than 40. How is this possible? He asked no one in particular. Commander Park had the answer, gained from interrogating captured coalition officers. They have been preparing for this since first contact. Every human system has hidden defenses. Every asteroid field might be full of weapons. Every piece of their space is trapped and monitored. They have been building toward this for 50 years. Why? Why would they do this? Because they learned from their own history. Humans almost destroyed themselves in wars. When they went to space, they swore they would never be vulnerable again. So they prepared. For everything. For war with anyone. With everyone if necessary. Krask looked at what remained of his fleet. Just under 500 ships now. Still more than the human active fleet. But how many hidden defenses waited in other systems? How many more ghost ships were lurking invisible in the dark? We need reinforcements, Krask said. Contact our homeworlds. We need everything they can send. But his communication was intercepted. Human intelligence had compromised their quantum communication channels. Admiral Rodriguez knew exactly what the coalition was planning. She decided it was time to end this war before it grew larger. Time to show the galaxy that humanity was not just defending. They could attack. They could do what no species had done in centuries. She could take the war to the enemy homeworld. Rodriguez assembled a strike force, 50 ships, the best captains, the best crews, and she led them herself on the flagship Defiance. Their target was the Dravix homeworld, Draxos Prime, the heart of the Dravix Empire. The center of their government and their military command. The Dravix had never been attacked at home. Not in 500 years. Their world was protected by orbital fortresses and a massive defensive fleet. They thought they were safe. The human fleet approached Draxos Prime carefully. They moved through Dravix space using their stealth systems, invisible to enemy sensors. They studied the defenses, mapped every fortress, every ship, every weapon system. Then they attacked. The human ships appeared without warning right in the middle of the Dravix defensive perimeter. Before the defenders could react, the humans deployed a new weapon that no one had seen before. Quantum disruptors. The weapons did not destroy ships. They disabled them. Every electronic system on the Dravix vessels simply stopped working. Weapons offline. Engines offline. Life support offline. In seconds, the entire defensive fleet became a collection of dead ships drifting in space. The orbital fortresses tried to fire. But the human ships were too fast, moving in ways that seemed to violate physics. They dodged every shot while returning fire with precision that seemed impossible. Within an hour, every fortress was silent. Rodriguez opened a communication channel. It broadcast to every ship, every station, and every home on Draxos Prime. This is Admiral Rodriguez of United Earth Fleet. We have disabled your defenses. Your military is helpless. We could destroy your world if we chose. We could do to you what the Korthax did to New Eden, but we will not. Because we are not like the Korthax. She paused, letting that sink in. However, you will surrender. Your government will order all coalition forces to stand down. You will pay reparations for your attack on human space. And you will never threaten humanity again. You have 1 hour to decide. On Draxos Prime, the government met in emergency session. Their military assured them that reinforcements were coming, that they could rebuild their defenses, that they should not surrender. Then the humans demonstrated what would happen if they refused. A single human ship fired a kinetic weapon at an uninhabited moon orbiting Draxos Prime. The weapon was just a solid piece of metal, accelerated to near-light speed. It hit the moon and cracked it in half. The moon broke apart, its pieces drifting away. The message was clear. The humans could do that to Draxos Prime itself. They had the power to crack planets. The Dravik's government surrendered in 45 minutes. News of the surrender spread quickly. The other coalition species began talking among themselves. The Draviks were the strongest military power among them. If the Draviks fell this quickly, what chance did the others have? One by one, they withdrew from the coalition. The Krell signed a non-aggression pact with humanity. The Zorath offered to share their water purification technology as a peace offering. The Peltok declared neutrality. The Ven disappeared back to their home systems without comment. The coalition that was supposed to teach humanity a lesson had collapsed in less than a week. 800 ships had become a cautionary tale about what happens when you push the humans too far. But the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. How had humanity hidden so much power? Why had they pretended to be weak? Former Ambassador Chen Wei, now back in a diplomatic role as humanity's special envoy, addressed these questions at an emergency council session. "You ask why we hid our strength," she said. "The answer is simple. We hoped we would never need it. We hoped that by appearing less threatening, we could live in peace with all of you." She looked around the chamber. "But you took our patience for weakness. You ignored our pleas for help. You enabled genocide because you thought we were too civilized to fight back." Chen's voice hardened. "Now you know the truth. Humans learned about war the hard way. We nearly destroyed ourselves. When we came to the stars, we swore we would never be victims again. So we prepared. For everything. For everyone. And now we have seen what you prepared for," the speaker said. "What do you want, Ambassador Chen? What are humanity's terms for peace?" Chen pulled up a document. "We want reform. Real reform. The Galactic Council must have actual power to stop aggression. War crimes must be punished. Species like the Korthax cannot be allowed to commit genocide. While the Council forms committees, you are demanding, we change thousands of years of tradition. Yes, because your tradition enables monsters. Your tradition protected the Korthax while they murdered our children. That ends now." The chamber was silent. Every ambassador understood what was happening. Humanity was not asking. They were not requesting. They were telling the Council how things would be from now on, and no one had the power to stop them. 6 months had passed since the Coalition War ended. The galaxy was very different now. Humanity had gone from being seen as the weak, patient species to the most feared military power in known space. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at reports from across human space. Most of it was good news. The Korthax Empire had surrendered completely. Their military was being dismantled. Their leaders, including Thaxcor, were awaiting trial for war crimes. But 3 species had refused to accept the new order. The Hask Dominion, the Karathi League, and the Talnash Collective. They had not joined the original coalition, but they also refused to sign the peace treaties humanity offered. Instead, they were fortifying their borders and increasing military production. Commander Park entered the bridge with a data pad. "Admiral, intelligence reports that all 3 species are coordinating their defenses. They are sharing technology and resources. It looks like they are preparing for a long war." Rodriguez studied the data. The 3 species controlled significant territory. They had large populations and strong industrial bases. If they worked together, they could be a serious problem. "Have we offered them the same terms as everyone else?" Rodriguez asked. "Yes, Admiral. Multiple times. They refuse to even meet with our diplomats. The Hask leadership has declared that they will never submit to human demands for council reform. They see our victory as temporary luck, not real strength." Rodriguez sighed. She had hoped to avoid this. The war with the coalition had cost lives. Not many compared to historical conflicts, but each death weighed on her. She had signed the orders that sent those people into combat. She remembered every name. What are their defensive capabilities? Park pulled up tactical assessments. Significant. The Hask have the most powerful conventional military of the 3. They have been studying our tactics and adapting. They have developed their own stealth detection grids. Their ships are slower than ours, but more heavily armored. The Karathi? Swarm tactics. They build smaller, cheaper ships, but in huge numbers. They believe they can overwhelm our defenses through sheer quantity. They are also fanatics. Their culture glorifies death in battle. And the Talnash? The most technologically advanced of the 3. They have energy weapons that rival our own. They are also the most isolated. Their space is far from human territory, which makes them feel safe. Rodriguez looked at the star maps. 3 species. 3 different approaches to warfare. All convinced they could resist humanity, she made a decision. We need to end this before it becomes a grinding war. We hit them fast. We hit them hard, and we show them that distance and defenses will not save them. What is the plan, Admiral? We are going to do something no one expects. We are going to attack all three simultaneously. We split our forces and strike their capital worlds at the same time. We show them that our reach is unlimited and our intelligence is perfect. Park looked concerned. Admiral, that means dividing our fleet into 3 groups. Each group will be outnumbered in their target system. If any group fails, we lose ships and look weak. It is risky. War is risk, Rodriguez replied. But we have advantages they do not. We know their dispositions. We know their capabilities. And we have weapons they have never seen. She called a full staff meeting. Every senior officer in the human fleet attended either in person or through holographic link. Rodriguez laid out the plan. 3 task forces, she explained. Task Force Alpha will target the Hask homeworld. Task Force Beta will hit the Karathi primary system. Task Force Gamma will strike the Talnash capital. Each task force will have 60 ships and full access to our advanced weapon systems. 60 ships each? One commander asked. The Hask alone have over 300 ships defending their homeworld. Yes, but we are not fighting a conventional battle. We are demonstrating that numbers do not matter anymore, that their defenses cannot stop us. That refusing peace was their mistake. She pulled up tactical details. Task Force Alpha will use our new phase torpedoes. They pass through shields and armor by temporarily shifting into quantum space. The Hask's thick armor will be useless. Task Force Beta will deploy swarm fighters, autonomous drones controlled by AI. Each of our ships will release 500 drones. That's 30,000 fighting units against the Karathi swarms. We will beat them at their own game. Task Force Gamma will use long-range gravity weapons. We will pull their ships out of formation from beyond their weapons range. We will show the Talnash that their technological advantage means nothing. The commanders reviewed the plans. Some looked worried. Some looked eager. All of them understood what this meant. This was humanity showing the full extent of their capabilities. After this, there would be no doubt about who held military supremacy in the galaxy. One more thing, Rodriguez added. We are bringing Special Envoy Chen with each task force. The moment we disable their defenses, she will offer surrender terms. We give them one chance. If they refuse, we continue the attack until they have no military capacity left. The officers nodded. They knew Rodriguez's reputation. She was ruthless in battle, but preferred to win without unnecessary killing. If the enemy would surrender, she would accept. Preparation took 3 weeks. The human fleet had to coordinate timing across vast distances. They had to ensure each task force had the right equipment and the right commanders, and they had to maintain complete secrecy. Human intelligence worked overtime to prevent leaks. They monitored every communication in the 3 species territories. They tracked ship movements. They watched for any sign that the enemy knew what was coming. Finally, everything was ready. Rodriguez gave the order. 3 task forces jumped to hyperspace simultaneously, heading toward their targets. Task Force Alpha emerged in Hask space first. Commander Sarah Park, promoted to lead her own task force, looked at the displays showing 300 Hask warships arrayed in defensive positions around their homeworld. Interesting formation, her tactical officer noted. They have overlapping fields of fire, no gaps in their sensor coverage. They learned from our previous battles. Did they learn enough? Park asked. Deploy phase torpedoes. All ships. Full spread, the human ships fired. The torpedoes looked like standard missiles at first. The Hask defensive fire opened up, trying to shoot them down, but the torpedoes did something impossible. They flickered and passed through the defensive fire without being destroyed. They kept coming. The Hask ships raised their shields to maximum. The torpedoes hit the shields and flickered again, passing through as if the shields were not there. Then they hit the armor. Same result. The torpedoes phased through the armor and exploded inside the Hask ships. 30 ships went offline in the first salvo. Their reactors were destroyed. Their power systems failed. The ships became dead metal floating in space. Second salvo, Park ordered. Target their command vessels. The Hask fleet tried to scatter, but they were too slow. More torpedoes hit. More ships died from internal explosions. The Hask had built their entire defensive strategy around thick armor and powerful shields. Those defenses were now meaningless. Within 15 minutes, half the Hask fleet was disabled or destroyed. The rest began sending surrender signals. Park opened a channel to the Hask government. "This is Commander Sarah Park of United Earth Fleet. Your defenses have failed. Your fleet is defeated. Special Envoy Chen Wei will now present terms for your surrender. I suggest you listen carefully." Chen appeared on the screen. She looked at the Hask leadership calmly. "You had 6 months to accept peace. You chose war. Now you have seen what that means. You will accept our terms or we will continue the attack. You have 1 hour to decide." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Task Force Beta arrived in Karathi space and faced the infamous Karathi swarms. Thousands of small ships, each piloted by a warrior seeking glory and death. They rushed toward the human ships in a massive wave. The human ships responded by launching their own swarms. But these were not piloted. They were AI-controlled drones, each one capable of independent action and coordinated by quantum computers. The Karathi thought they understood swarm tactics. They had been using them for centuries, but they had never faced an intelligent swarm. The human drones moved as one organism, adapting to every Karathi maneuver instantly. They surrounded enemy ships and destroyed them with precision fire. They protected each other, reformed when taking damage, and never made the same mistake twice. The Karathi warriors fought bravely, but bravery was not enough. For every human drone destroyed, the AI learned and adapted. Within an hour, the Karathi swarms were gone. Their shipyards were burning. Their military infrastructure was in ruins, and they had not destroyed a single human ship. Task Force Gamma took a different approach with the Talnash. These beings prided themselves on their technological superiority. They had weapons and sensors they believed made them untouchable. The human ships arrived and immediately demonstrated their own technological advancement. Gravity weapons reached across space and grabbed Talnash ships, pulling them out of their defensive formations. The ships could not fight the pull. Their engines were not designed to resist that kind of force. The human ships dragged enemy vessels into clusters, making them easy targets. Then they deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons that fried every electronic system on the Talnash ships without destroying the vessels themselves. The Talnash watched in horror as their advanced technology became useless. Their weapons could not lock onto the human ships. Their sensors could not track targets accurately. Their ships drifted helpless while human forces took control of their system. In all 3 battles, the pattern was the same. Humanity demonstrated not just superior technology, but completely different approaches to warfare. The Hask learned that armor meant nothing. The Karathi learned that numbers meant nothing. The Talnash learned that conventional technology meant nothing. Within 24 hours, all 3 species were requesting terms for surrender. Admiral Rodriguez brought the 3 task forces together for a joint victory transmission. She appeared on screens across the galaxy, standing before the assembled might of the human fleet. "To all species watching this," she said, "what you have seen today is not aggression. It is the end of aggression. For too long, the strong have bullied the weak in this galaxy. For too long, the Galactic Council has allowed injustice because it was easier than acting. That era is over. Humanity will not conquer. We will not build an empire, but we will maintain order. We will protect the innocent, and we will punish those who commit atrocities." The Korthax learned this lesson. The Coalition learned this lesson. Now 3 more species have learned it. We hope no one else needs to learn it the hard way. She paused, looking directly at the camera. "We gave you 847 chances to do the right thing through peace and law. You refused all of them, so we had to teach you a different way. We had to show you that there are consequences for cruelty, for genocide, for attacking those who only want to live in peace. We did not want to be the galaxy's enforcers. We wanted to be the galaxy's friends, but you would not let us. So now we will be what we must be. Pray you never give us a reason to visit your worlds." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, governments met in emergency sessions. Military commanders reviewed their forces. Scientists studied the battles, trying to understand the human weapons. But everyone reached the same conclusion. Humanity was now the dominant military power. Not because they had the most ships or the largest empire, but because their technology was decades ahead of everyone else. And because they were willing to use that technology without hesitation when pushed. On the Council homeworld, ambassadors gathered for another emergency session. The speaker floated in the center of the chamber, its energy form pulsing with agitation. "The humans have changed everything," one ambassador said. "The old balance of power is gone. If we do not give them what they want, they will take it. What do they want? Another asked. Really? Chen Wei stood to address the assembly. We want what we have always wanted. Peace, justice, a galaxy where law matters more than military strength. We know the irony of using military strength to force those changes. We know we have become what we fought against in some ways. But we also know this. Before we acted, the galaxy was ruled by whoever had the most ships and the least conscience. The Korthax committed genocide and faced no consequences. The Council did nothing while innocents died. That cannot continue. So yes, we are forcing change. We are using our power to rebuild the Council into something that actually protects people. You can work with us or you can resist. But the change is coming either way. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported humanity's position. Some opposed it. Some were too afraid to take any position at all. In the end, it did not matter. The Council voted to begin reforms. Real reforms with actual enforcement mechanisms. War crime tribunals with the power to punish offenders. Military limits on aggressive species. Protections for vulnerable worlds. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, but they had reshaped it completely. Admiral Rodriguez returned to Earth after the campaigns ended. She was hailed as a hero. Schools were named after her. Her face appeared on currency. Children played games pretending to be the admiral who had defeated the galaxy. But Rodriguez felt no joy in the victory. She had seen too much, done too much. She met with the president in private. I need to resign, Rodriguez said. We won the war. We reshaped the galaxy. But I am not the person to lead humanity in peace. I have become too comfortable with violence. The president shook her head. That is exactly why you need to stay. You know the cost of war. You understand what we unleashed. I need someone who will use our power reluctantly. Someone who remembers that every battle has a price. Rodriguez looked out the window at Earth. Her homeworld, the planet that had nearly destroyed itself in war, then gone to the stars seeking peace. We have become what we feared, she said softly. The most powerful military force in the galaxy. Yes, the president agreed. The question now is, what will we do with that power? Will we use it to help or to hurt, to protect or to conquer? That is the challenge for our generation. Rodriguez nodded slowly. I will stay, but only if we make one promise. We never forget why we fought. We never become casual about violence. We never stop trying for peace first. Agreed, the president said. We will be the galaxy's guardians. Not because we want to be, but because no one else can. And so humanity entered a new era, an era where they were no longer the patient diplomats seeking acceptance. They were the power that enforced peace, the force that protected the weak. Some species were grateful, some were resentful. All of them were cautious, because they had learned the lesson. You can push humans far. They will be patient. They will try every peaceful solution. They will give 847 chances for justice. But if you push them too far, if you give them no choice but war, they will show you what they really are, and by then it is too late. 20 years had passed since the wars ended. The galaxy was at peace, real peace, not just the absence of fighting. The reforms that humanity had forced on the Galactic Council actually worked. War crimes were punished. Aggression was stopped before it grew into full conflict. Weaker species could trade and grow without fear. But the peace came with a cost that few talked about openly. Everyone was afraid of humanity. Not angry, not resentful anymore. Just afraid. Commander Li Chen, daughter of former Ambassador Chen Wei, stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Guardian. She was checking trade routes in the outer sectors. It was boring work, but necessary. Pirates had almost completely disappeared after the wars, but some still tried occasionally. Her sensor officer reported a distress call. Commander, we have a Peltok freighter under attack by raiders. 3 ships. Small craft, probably independent operators. Set course. Maximum speed, Lee ordered. The Guardian was a small patrol ship. Nothing like the warships that had fought in the great conflicts. But it was more than enough for pirates. They arrived in minutes. The raiders saw the Guardian and immediately stopped their attack. One of them sent a communication request. We surrender, the raider captain said quickly. Please do not fire. We will power down weapons and submit to arrest. Lee had not even powered up her weapons yet. The raiders surrendered the moment they saw a human ship. They did not ask about her ship's capabilities or how many other ships were nearby. They just gave up instantly. Secure the raiders and provide assistance to the freighter, Lee ordered. She felt uncomfortable. This happened all the time now. Any criminal who saw a human ship immediately surrendered. Sometimes they surrendered even if the human ship was unarmed civilian craft. After securing the prisoners, Lee talked to the Peltok captain. "Are your crew and cargo safe?" "Yes, thanks to you. Your arrival was most timely." The Peltok, a plant being named Resh, looked at the Guardian with obvious respect, though I suspect they would have fled even if you had not fired a shot. "That seems to be common now," Lee said. "Can you blame them?" Resh asked. "Everyone knows human capabilities. Everyone knows what happens to those who fight you. Better to surrender and face legal justice than face your weapons." Lee ended the call and stared at the view screen. Was this victory? Peace through fear? Back on Earth in the rebuilt city of New Shanghai, Sarah Park walked through a memorial garden. She was retired from the military now, but people still recognized her. Some asked for autographs. Some thanked her for her service. Most just looked at her with a mixture of respect and nervousness. The memorial garden honored those who died at New Eden. 4,000 names carved into black stone. Sarah came here often. She had led the recovery teams. She had seen the bodies. These deaths had started everything. A young girl approached her, maybe 10 years old. She held a flower. "Are you Commander Park?" The girl asked. "I was Commander Park. I am retired now. Just Sarah. My teacher said you were a hero, that you helped defeat the Korthax and save humanity." Sarah smiled sadly. "I did my duty. Many others did the same. I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to protect people." Sarah knelt down to the girl's eye level. "That is a good dream. But remember something important. Being strong is not the same as being good. We became strong because we had to. But we should never be proud of needing that strength. We should always wish we did not need it." The girl looked confused. She was too young to understand. She had grown up in a galaxy where humanity was the most powerful force, where human ships kept the peace, where everyone feared crossing human boundaries. She had not known the days when humans begged the Council for help and were ignored. When human diplomats gave 847 speeches that no one listened to, when human patience was seen as weakness. Sarah stood and placed her flower at the memorial. Then she went home to her small apartment. She lived alone. Most of the war veterans did. They had seen things that made normal life difficult. On the Council homeworld, Ambassador Michael Stone represented humanity. He was the third human ambassador since the wars. His job was very different from Chen Wei's had been. Where Chen had to beg and plead, Stone simply stated humanity's positions and everyone listened. Where Chen had to work for months to get a committee formed, Stone's requests were acted on immediately. It should have felt good. It did not. Stone sat in a cafe across from the Vrex ambassador Kixar, the same being who had once told Chen that investigation reports took 6 months. "You have been in this position 2 years now," Kixar said, sipping a drink through his beak. "Are you enjoying it?" "Enjoying is not the word I would use," Stone replied honestly. "I understand. It must be strange. 30 years ago, your predecessor was ignored by everyone in the Council. Now you speak and the galaxy listens. They listen because they are afraid. That is not the same as respect." Kixar tilted his head. "Is there a difference?" "In galactic politics, fear and respect are often identical. There should be a difference. We do not want species to follow our suggestions because they fear we will attack them. We want them to follow because our ideas are good." "Then you want something impossible," Kixar said bluntly. "You revealed that humanity has overwhelming military superiority. You cannot unreveal that. Every species will remember the wars. Every decision they make will include the thought, what will the humans do if we refuse them?" Stone stared into his coffee. Kixar was right. Humanity had changed everything, and they could not change it back. They were trapped in the role of galactic enforcer whether they wanted it or not. That evening, Stone returned to the human embassy. His staff had prepared a briefing about a developing situation. A new species had been discovered on the edge of known space. The Zarn. They were expanding aggressively, taking over uninhabited systems and claiming them as territory. "Are they threatening anyone?" Stone asked. "Not yet, but their expansion pattern suggests they will reach Peltok space within 5 years. The Peltok are concerned. Has anyone tried talking to the Zarn?" The Council sent a delegation. The Zarn refused to meet with them. They say they do not recognize the Council's authority. Stone rubbed his temples. Here it was again. Another aggressive species. Another potential conflict, and everyone would look to humanity to solve it. Prepare a message to the Zarn leadership. Tell them humanity would like to open diplomatic relations. Keep it friendly. Non-threatening. We are not the galaxy's attack dog. His aide looked uncomfortable. Sir, the Council has already asked if we will send ships to the border regions. To make a show of force. No, not yet. We talk first. Always. On Earth, Admiral Rodriguez reviewed the same situation from a military perspective. She was still Supreme Commander of Galactic Peacekeeping Forces. 20 years in the job. She looked older now. Gray hair, lines on her face. The weight of her position showing. Her staff presented tactical analysis of the Zarn military. They have a large fleet, but it is older technology. Comparable to pre-war Korthax level. If conflict becomes necessary, we could defeat them easily. I did not ask if we could defeat them, Rodriguez said sharply. I asked if there was a way to avoid conflict entirely. They do not seem interested in negotiation, Admiral. Then we make them interested. Send a single ship, unarmed. A diplomatic vessel with a message. We want to talk. We want to help them join the galactic community peacefully. And if they attack our diplomatic ship, Rodriguez was quiet. Then she said, if they attack an unarmed diplomatic vessel, then they will learn the same lesson the Korthax learned. But we give them every chance to choose peace first. The diplomatic ship, the Olive Branch, traveled to Zarn space. Captain Weijo commanded it. He was specifically chosen because he was Chenwei's son, a symbol that humanity still valued diplomacy despite their military power. The Olive Branch emerged in Zarn space, broadcasting friendship and requests for dialogue. Zarn ships immediately surrounded it. This is Captain Wei Zhao of the human vessel Olive Branch. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders about joining the Galactic Council and establishing trade relations. The Zarn response was harsh. We do not need your counsel. We do not need your permission to expand. Leave our space or be destroyed. We are unarmed, Zhao said calmly. Attacking us would be an act of war against humanity. I strongly advise against it. We do not fear you, the Zarn commander replied. Your reputation means nothing to us. We are strong. We take what we want. That attitude has led to the destruction of every species that tried it in the last 20 years, Zhao warned. Please reconsider. Last warning. Leave now. Zhao looked at his crew. They were frightened, but holding steady. No, we will remain here until your leaders agree to talk. We are not leaving. The Zarn ships powered up weapons. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the Zarn commander spoke again, his voice different, uncertain. You are truly unarmed? Completely. You can scan our ship. We have no weapons, no shields. We came to talk, not to fight. Another long pause. Why would you come unarmed to hostile space? Because talking requires trust. We trust that you are intelligent enough to understand that attacking an unarmed diplomatic vessel would be a terrible mistake. Are we wrong to trust you? The Zarn ships held their position. Zhao could see their weapons were locked on his ship. One order and the Olive Branch would be debris. Then the Zarn commander said, You are either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both, Zhao admitted. Will you talk with us? Wait, hours passed. The Olive Branch remained surrounded. Zhao's crew was nervous, but he kept them calm. They are thinking. That is good. Thinking is better than shooting. Finally, a new communication came. Different voice, older, more authority. I am first leader of the Zarn Collective. You are the human vessel that refuses to leave despite being threatened? Yes, First Leader. I am Captain Zhao. I would like to discuss your expansion plans and how they might coexist with the territories of existing Council species. Why do humans care? We are far from your space. Because we learned hard lessons about what happens when aggressive expansion is ignored. We want to help you avoid those lessons. The First Leader was silent for a moment. We have heard stories about humans, about the wars, about your weapons that make defense meaningless. You could destroy our fleet easily, yet you came unarmed. Why? Because we prefer talking to fighting. Because we believe most conflicts can be avoided if everyone negotiates in good faith. Because 847 attempts at peace are better than one act of war. 847, it is a long story. But the important part is this. We will give you as many chances as you need to choose peace. But if you choose war, you will lose. Every species that has fought us in the last 20 years lost. Not because we are cruel, because we are prepared. The first leader thought about this. Come to our homeworld alone, we will talk, Zhao agreed. He traveled to the Zarn homeworld with a small diplomatic team. No weapons, no military escort. Just people ready to talk. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Zhao learned about Zarn culture and their history. They were a young spacefaring species only 200 years old. They were aggressive because they were afraid. Their home system had limited resources and they feared running out. We can help with that, Zhao explained. The Council has resource-sharing agreements, technology exchange programs. You do not need to conquer to survive. You can trade, partner with others, build relationships, and if we refuse, you will attack us! Zhao shook his head. No. First, we will try everything else. Economic incentives, diplomatic pressure, blockades if necessary. We do not jump to military force. We only fight when there is no other option. But I will be honest with you, First Leader. If you attack other species, if you commit atrocities like the Korthax did, humanity will stop you, and you cannot win that fight. The First Leader looked at Zhao carefully. You do not sound like a conqueror. You sound tired. I am. My mother was Ambassador Chen Wei. She spent years trying to prevent a war through diplomacy. She failed, and the war that followed changed everything. Now I do her old job in a very different galaxy. I want to succeed where she had to fail. I want to solve this through talking, not fighting. The First Leader made a decision. We will join your council. We will follow the rules, but not because we fear you, Captain Zhao. Because you came unarmed and treated us with respect. You could have threatened us with your weapons. Instead, you trusted us not to kill you. That deserves recognition. Zhao returned to human space with a treaty. The Zarn would join the Galactic Council and accept resource-sharing agreements. They would limit their expansion and work with neighboring species. Crisis avoided. When Zhao reported to Admiral Rodriguez, she smiled for the first time in months. You did good work, Captain. Your mother would be proud. She would also say that we should not need overwhelming military power to make peace work, Zhao replied. She would be right. But we live in the galaxy we have, not the galaxy we want. We use our power to keep the peace because no one else can. Maybe someday that will change. Maybe someday the galaxy will not need humanity to enforce its rules. Do you believe that? Rodriguez looked out at the stars. I want to. Every day I hope that we are working toward a future where our military strength is not needed, where species can coexist without fear. But until that day comes, we do what we must. Years continued to pass. The galaxy remained peaceful. Human patrol ships kept trade routes safe. Human diplomats helped negotiate disputes. Human military forces stayed in the background, present but rarely needed. A new generation grew up knowing only peace. They learned about the wars in school like ancient history. They saw humanity's role as normal, not understanding how strange and terrible it was that peace required the constant threat of overwhelming force. On New Eden, rebuilt after its destruction, a memorial stood in the central square. 4,000 names, a reminder of the cost of peace. And every year on the anniversary of the attack, humanity paused to remember, not to celebrate their victory, not to boast about their power, but to remember the people who died because the galaxy would not protect them. Ambassador Chen Wei, old now and retired, stood at the memorial with her son. She touched the names carved in stone. Do you regret it, Mother? Zhao asked. If you could go back, would you keep trying for peace even knowing it would fail? Chen thought for a long time before answering. Yes, because those 847 attempts were not failures. They were proof that we exhausted every option. When we finally fought back, no one could say we did not try. Our conscience is clear. But the galaxy fears us now. Yes, and that is the price we pay. We wanted to be friends with the galaxy. Instead, we became its guardians, its enforcers, the power that stops aggression. It is not what we wanted, but it is what was necessary. Zhao looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, human ships patrolled. Human diplomats negotiated. Human power maintained order. Will it ever change, he asked. Will the galaxy ever trust us instead of fearing us? Maybe, Chen said. In 100 years. In 1,000. When enough time has passed that the wars become history instead of memory, when new species arise that do not remember the Korthax or the Coalition, when humanity is judged by our actions over centuries, not our victories in a few years. She looked at her son. That is your generation's task. not to win wars, but to prove that we deserved to win them, to show that we used our power to help, not to hurt, to slowly earn trust instead of demanding obedience. 20 years after the wars ended, the galaxy was at peace. It was not perfect peace. It was not the peace that humanity had dreamed of when they first joined the Galactic Council. But it was real, it was lasting, and it existed because one species had been pushed too far, because one species said no more warnings, no more mercy, because one species showed the galaxy that patience has limits. The lesson spread across 1,000 worlds, in 100 languages. Everyone knew the story. The humans who tried 847 times to solve problems peacefully. The humans who only fought when every other option was exhausted. The humans who became the galaxy's most powerful force not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And the final part of the lesson, the part that mattered most. Do not push them. Do not mistake their desire for peace as weakness. Do not force them to become what they tried so hard to avoid being. Because when humans decide they are done with warnings and mercy, the galaxy changes forever.